Welcome, everybody, to the final week of the regular season here at the NLC. We are halfway through because we have 3 days of League of Legends action coming our way. Now, before we get into it, I'm going to have to say thank you to our sponsors, El Giganten, Corsair, Telia, and MasterCard. And let's get on with the show, everybody. Just double checking, I'm all good. Yeah, I was almost got told I was muted. I think my producer maybe almost baited me there, but we're ready to get going. I'm joined on the desk here by Trouble, Gulborg, and Orcs, and we are diving into what is going to be a very exciting couple of days because there are lots of games that really do mean a lot over the course of the next few days. But before we get into it, I do want to say that we have a raffle going, which I believe that you can go and check out on our social media channels. NLC LOL is running throughout the week, I believe. And as you can see here, there are RP rewards, and essentially you have to interact and tell us what your favorite play of the day was overall. So make sure you go and check out our social media channels. NLC LOL, you'll be able to find us on any of the social media platforms. So, yesterday, let's start there. Let's start with yesterday because we've already had 4 games. We've already had a couple of things decided. And I'll just recap the scores for you, just so you guys are aware. Riddle beat Nordavind, XL beat Singularity, Godsent beat Ents, and Munster beat Dusty. And I think to kick things off, I'm going to go to you, Gulborg, because I know you're a big Riddle fan. That was a big win for them.
I mean, it really was. Essentially, they are still challenging XL from that first seat now. Although it is not necessarily 100% in their own hands right now, they can still challenge XL should they lose another game. So everything is still up for grabs after yesterday.
Yeah, and then obviously we had Godsent versus Ents, and that was another really important game, especially for Godsent, Dan.
Yeah, it keeps their chance of playoffs alive with that win. They equalize the head-to-head with Ents, and it means now that they are still fighting for that playoff spot, and importantly, it's in their hands. So a super important victory for them. And honestly, the manner in which they did it was really impressive. I think particularly C-Boy in the jungle was a massive factor in this one, from the level 1, from the map split to provide for his top laner. It was just really good play around the map that facilitated his team. And as soon as we got that initial dragon fight, I felt like this is a game Godsent really could take, and they managed to keep the momentum going. So a much better performance from them, but ultimately a little bit worrying for Ents there because they are not surefire for playoffs, and one of the games today is going to decide that.
And talking about shaky performances, Munster, yes, they did pull the win versus Dusty. We were expecting them. They're the strongest team on the paper. But yet again, way too many question marks around them. Haven't figured out their play. A lot of their calls and decision-making look shaky. And it ultimately came down to Dusty making yet another mistake into the very, very deep depths of the late game that Munster was very, very happy to grab because it looked extremely grim if they were going to take the win or not.
And like I said, there was another game to talk about. XL obviously getting a win versus Singularity, and whilst it didn't mean much because Singularity couldn't actually sort of improve upon their position of relegation, XL getting wins is also really important for them for the first seed. And we've got a lot of important games coming your way as well. Let's kind of have a look at the standings then after we get out of the replays, because we can kind of talk about where we are in the overall position in the tournament right now. And you can yes, sorry, my brain is just absolutely switched off today. Division A, as you can see here, BTXL at the top, and Singularity, they cannot escape playoffs at this point in time.
Significant thing here is Ents and Godsent still fighting for that last playoff spot. BTXL, Riddle, and Nordavind are all locked in, but they're competing to try and get above each other. BTXL, if they win today, they do lock in first place, but if they don't, Riddle has a chance to chase them down, but Nordavind is also on their heels. So although we're close to having the playoff teams decided, it's still very neck and neck for those seeding spots.
And obviously, speaking of neck and neck for seeding spots and playoffs in general, you have Dusty and Barrage who still fighting for making it into this playoffs. You got Barrage who needs to get a win today, otherwise they will have M&M Gaming and relegation right behind them. So there are some really exciting games today, not only because of the games themselves, but because of the seeding and because of the relegation and playoffs.
Yeah, and speaking of... Oh,
Yeah,
go Trouble,
I was about to say, speaking of relegation,
you actually did it for me.
funnily enough, it's only Singularity that have locked their spot into the relegation series. And you know what? We mentioned it yesterday. A team with nothing to lose is a team that should be feared. A day later on, they're going to be playing versus Riddle, and they could potentially ruin their dreams.
And I think it's quite scary as well. Particularly my team I want to emphasize is Barrage. Barrage can make playoffs and they can also make relegations. They are the team with the most fluidity and movement that can happen. So these last 2 days are super important for them, more so than any other team, because a lot of them, as you said, are already locked in. We see Singularity locked into last place. Barrage, they could end up anywhere with only 2 games left.
So I want to dive into this a little bit more off the back of the standings. And the first thing that I want to do is let you know which teams are locked in and have made it. Fnatic, they are locked in for first in Group B. XL, they're locked into playoffs, not guaranteed first as of yet, but looking pretty good. Riddle, they are locked into playoffs. Munster, Tricked, and Nordavind are all locked in to their respective playoff spots. So there are limited places up for grabs over the next 2 days. And over in Group A, that is where some real fighting is going to be going down, Gulbog. Dan, rather. That's going to be Ents and Godsent. They're fighting for those that last spot in Group A.
Yeah, and they have obviously played against each other already, which I think makes it a little bit less interesting. You're not going to have that head-to-head, but it shows the importance of these games. And a critical factor that's coming into play here is how we work out our tiebreakers. So if multiple teams are tied, we have what's called an aggregate head-to-head, where we compare the head-to-head of every single team, and we take a look at who has a higher than 50% win rate, who has a lower than 50% win rate. Because of the current state of Group A, if Godsent win their game today against Nordavind, no matter what happens, Godsent will have locked playoffs, because Ents, although they have an even head-to-head with Godsent, they have a losing head-to-head against Nordavind. So the aggregate head-to-head rule comes in. We'll have Nordavind in third, we'll have Godsent in fourth, and Ents will get pushed down to fifth. So Ents don't even have a hand in their fortune anymore. It is all down to Nordavind, who have to beat Godsent to keep their hopes of playoffs alive.
And I think then also looking over the other side of the coin, we briefly touched on it, but Gulbog, Dusty and Barrage, I think Dan mentioned there's a lot of swing happening here, but those are the 2 teams that we're really laser focused on in Group B, right?
Yeah, obviously it didn't look good for Dusty when they took that loss yesterday against the shaky Munster. I think it was a bit on their own terms, and if they keep having these kind of shaky performances, Barrage may just end up and steal that spot from them. It is a quite tough position for them, but they still have something to say for themselves. Sadly, they're not playing today. They're playing tomorrow against Barrage themselves, and that is really when it comes down to how aggressive or how entertaining this series is going to be.
Yeah, and obviously, finally, Trouble, you did briefly mention it, a Singularity absolutely relegated, but M&M, they're still playing for a potential spot. They're still even playing to escape that sort of scenario.
Who would have thought, right? And not only can they escape, but they can ruin someone else's day as well, because Barrage is right in front of them, and it feels like if they can catch up to Barrage, they could escape the relegation spot and they could drag down Barrage with them. So it's kind of like, you're the last person on the ship, there is actually no boat left, so you're trying to snatch someone else down from the boat to get yourself in. I think this is where M&M is right now.
And critical factor is marshmallows do float.
Oh dear.
Go without the boat? Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
But I think this leads us on to something, Trouble, and I know you were really keen to talk about this. We talk about the bottom of the table, we talk about those playoff spots, but the big conversation point really has been throughout of all of this, it's been Fnatic, right?
Not necessarily Fnatic itself, but Fnatic as a whole have created this sort of chaos in Group A, where the teams don't necessarily care about who's going to finish first or second. They care about not finishing second, not facing that Fnatic straight out of groups into the playoffs, which is something that they need to start thinking about.
Yeah, and in general, I mean, there's 2 master spots up for grabs in our league. Even though you might not be able to take Fnatic on in the finals, you do still have something to take on. But that's kind of the coward's way of thinking it too, right? Like, oh yeah, okay, we don't feel secure enough to beat Fnatic anyway. We'll just take the second U master seat. But there's still, yeah, Fnatic right now just looking too dominant.
And you said something there. It's like the second EU Master seed, and it doesn't matter if you go straight into the main stage or you go through the play-ins. The thing is, you are going to EU Masters to exert dominance of the region. If you don't want to face one of the strongest, if not the strongest team in your region, going over to EU Masters, Fnatic made top 4. They didn't win. They didn't go to the finals. If you can't beat them, they're with the same roster. What chances do you have against the rest?
And I think the two critical things to look at is beating Fnatic can have a huge effect on your playoffs run. If you go to the upper bracket and you manage to beat out Fnatic, you could see yourself get into the final and EU Masters very quickly. Now, we've seen that Group B has really struggled to deal with this team. Tricked are going to face up against them later today, so that could be the last chance really to see Fnatic bleed. But I'm looking towards Group A. These teams who haven't matched up yet, and in particular Riddle, we saw Sankux yesterday say how he feels like they can take down Fnatic. He feels like they've improved over the split and they can challenge them. And that is going to be the big question, is when a team comes against Fnatic, can they handle them? Can they take them down? Or is it going to be another first place finish for the reigning champions of the UK?
I mean, I think realistically, at the end of the day, we have 2 spots to send to the European Masters. We're going to send our 2 best teams in the league. And I think overall, Fnatic quite clearly have shown that they are deserving of one of those spots. It's just about that second team, who's going to make it. And I think, as Dan said, you're going to have to beat Fnatic at some point, whether it's here, whether it's the European Masters. At some point, there's going to be a time when we need to beat Fnatic. So we can't just play an avoidance game the entire way through. But as Gulborg quite rightly pointed out, we have 2 spots, and sometimes the prize is bigger than that. Sometimes the prize is just getting to European Masters as well. Guys, one extra thing. Obviously, yesterday, we talked about it yesterday. It was patch 10.15. It was some big changes came through. We were thinking about what may have been affected. And I'll start with you, Gulborg. When we look back at 10.15, has anything changed? Were you surprised by anything?
I mean, we did see some Shen, we did see some Gragas coming out, and obviously they had some buffs, but I was really not surprised as to what champions we saw yesterday. I don't think it had too much of an impact what we really saw. So in general, that we saw a Shen, kind of surprised. It fit into the composition that Dusty drafted it in, but other than that, no, I was really not surprised by it.
And honestly, talking about surprises, I wasn't surprised either. The Shen was already strong enough. Sure, it fits into a couple of matchups, but he has that global. And globals are all the raids right now. The Gallios, the Twisted Fates, everything, the Gangplanks. It's all about the globals and all about creating pressure and not allowing your opponent to keep track of all these timings and cooldowns. And also the Gragas, we knew was going to benefit junglers like Nolty, like Skude, who already do like to favor the more AP-oriented kind of junglers. So were we surprised? No. Did the patch bring them a little bit closer to the light? I feel so.
I think the only interesting thing I really saw was the Sona ban up against Dusty. A lot of talk has been around this Sona Lux, which is essentially similar to the Sona Taric in this super scaling double support bot lane. And I think teams were potentially concerned about Dusty bringing it out, but I think we will see that before the end of the season, whether it's today, tomorrow, in the playoffs. I think Sona Lux is on the rise just to its raw scaling power. And that was the first hint we got of it. So we'll see if that does start to show its face.
Oh, please no.
Yes.
I'm getting flashbacks to when we last saw Sona appear in the bot lane, and yeah, I mean, look, we saw C9 try to pull it out.
That was even worse. That was Sona Taric.
Yes, it was something. It's true. Sona Taric was pretty terrible, but yeah, I think quite clearly we've seen a little bit of shift, but overall things have felt pretty samey, from 10-15, 10-14 to 10-15. But sometimes it takes a little while for teams to experiment and get to a new phase of the meta, and I guess we'll see there. Guys, we're going to go to a break. When we're back, we will start to work towards that first game of the day. We'll see you very soon.
Champion jumps over the wall, gets a 2-man knockup. Vrao, 1 versus 2.
Wait, he's away!
Vrao survives! What is this man doing on Yasuo? It's godly! Way, and somehow Singularity walk out as Vrao gets sniped. 1-for-1, Kevo answers back. Good saves the day. Flaxus is coming in, gets himself the ultimate, the last breath does come down by Vrao. This might be that 1-0 combo you were talking about. They find the shutdowns across the board. 2 kills for Singularity. Champion catches Takes but Takes
He's alive!
Mopping up the fight. Flaxus can only continue to go. Godsend get wiped out of the fight. He coming in. Is he going to get the slice off? He gets it. The secure. Godsend get out.
All right, guys. Now, before we get into our first game of the day, which, spoiler alert, is going to be Tricked versus Fnatic, let's take a look at the schedule for the rest of the games. We obviously have 4 coming your way, like always. Again, like I said, spoiler alert, it was Tricked versus Fnatic to begin with. Barrage versus M&M, going to be a really important game for Group B as our second of the day. Riddle versus Singularity, and we're ending the day with another pretty important game in the form of Godsent versus Nordavind. Lots on the line. Now, I'm not going to get my analysts to deep dive into the other games. I want to start specifically right now on... Oh, before I do that, as I always forget, and I almost forgot again, our analysts have predicted some things, and I don't actually think we've got a graphic for it, but... Oh, we do! We've been given a graphic for it today. There we go. And you can see here... Oh, wait a second! I have to go to trouble straight away. What on earth?
Listen, Tricked... I'm a fan girl for Tricked. When they're on a good day, they're on a good day, okay? And I believe that last time that they faced Fnatic, they weren't necessarily ready for it, but they need to bring their A game. If one team can do it, I believe it could be them. So, you know what? If I want to catch up to the others, I have to take the gamble. So I took the gamble with Tricked. Who else?
And actually, something else that looks like a bit of a gamble, according to the rest of the predictions, is the barrage over M&M. Apparently, the rest of the casters are super keen and super confident for M&M here. But we'll talk about that when we get there, guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think with M&M, it's the fact that despite the scoreline, despite the rough split, M&M look like they can put up a real fight now. The new revitalized roster, Monk in the AD carry role, I think a lot of people are sold on them right now, though it's not clear-cut.
And I agree. I think M&M have looked refreshed and revitalized, like you said. And I do genuinely believe they can beat Barrage, which might be a bit of a slight at Barrage because they've got some incredible players. But I'm hopeful. I'm confident in M&M, and it's a really important game for them to win because if they lose, they're relegated. You know, that's it. They're done. So, you know, we're basically putting hope in M&M to keep that fight a little bit more spicy in Group B. Guys, let's laser focus in on this first game then. And first of all, start off with Fnatic. They're already first. Nothing can change. Fnatic are absolutely locked into first place in Group B. Their scoreline from this point onwards matters not. They will automatically take the first seed regardless of what happens. With a few other teams, including Tricked, fighting for second place. That's the deal right now with this particular game. It means a lot for Tricked specifically.
And although this doesn't match up really effectively into the standings, this isn't going to drastically change things there. Fnatic, as you said, locked first. Tricked, although they're fighting for second, the match against Munster is more important. The big significant thing I want to push here is that Fnatic are undefeated. We talked earlier about how these teams are eventually going to have to face Fnatic, and if they go into the playoffs undefeated, it sets a precedent that they just could not handle them. This is the last chance before playoffs for a team to make Fnatic bleed. I mean, the exception's M&M, but realistically, I think Tricked need to be the ones to do it to set a precedent for everyone else that Fnatic are beatable.
Yeah, and I think I really like that you're kind of offering the potential Achilles heel, but when I think of Fnatic, I think of dominance. That's the only word I can think of when I think of Fnatic in the NLC right now. For me, it feels like they have lots of strengths, and I almost feel like I can't even pinpoint weaknesses, Gould.
I'm actually having the same issues as you at the moment. I feel like it also goes down to how unpunished that Fnatic are. They're always able to play their win condition, and we always know what their win condition is gonna be. And just from the get-go in draft, they always like to get the scaling going. They always like lane priority. They got Dan and something he can feel comfortable with pathing or in a good matchup. And then in general, in game, they're just able to play out of that win condition. They're just never getting punished, and that is why they're also just so dominant. I'm just curious to see how that is going to fare when they go further into the league.
And also, let's not forget that they've been playing together for almost 2 splits now. The guys know each other. They know their bad moments and their good moments. They know how to play the game. They know how to treat each other when somebody's not feeling well. They are very well gelled together as a team, and they know how to adapt when something is not going right, and it shows instantly in their gameplay.
But that's also why I think it can be a kind of double-edged sword in general. They have seen one-dimensional. We have only seen one kind of playstyle coming out for them, and it's the same safe early game, great mid to late game scaling, and that's also how they play. But we haven't seen them get punished either in draft, where people are going for new stuff to kind of push them off the throne they're having right now, and we haven't really seen them punish them in-game either for some of the mistakes they're making, although granted, they are making a few in our league.
And I want to see them challenged. I want to see in particular Dan challenged. If he's going to try and play a more farming-oriented pathing game, I want to see you look to invade, play that aggression, and challenge Felix early, because that is where I think he's most likely to crumble. We saw it more so last split in the UKLC, but this team isn't infallible. They just haven't been tested properly yet. So Trick, this is your opportunity.
Yeah, and Tricked have been looking a little bit shaky. They've been looking a little bit 50-50. They flip a coin. They don't know which side it's going to end up in. If they mess up the early game, it's going to go bad for them. But in all honesty, I've seen them play so many different playstyles. I'm like, ooh, they're really good at this one, and this one. They're really bad at this one, and this one. But every time they seem to be bringing something different on the table. And at this point, I'm not sure what Tricked is really good at.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, they are good at being versatile. With all the different sort of play styles, it means they have a lot to offer. And what I'm hoping is that we see them sort of direct themselves towards one thing that's going to work effectively for them, as Excel have tried to do. And I think for me, it's the strong solo laners. I think we've seen the flexes between Wazo and Eren. In particular, I think Eren is like a Swiss Army knife for the team, where he can fill whatever role they need. And as long as Wazo is having a good game, he gets some momentum going, I think they can be driving factors, especially matching up against Fnatic.
And I always feel like they go into the game knowing exactly where their win conditions lie, and specifically what game they want to play, who they want to feed, at what minute do they want to fight, where do they want to swap their macro, the lane management, everything. When it falls into place on a good day, and mind you, caps lock, on a good day, everything falls into place. It's like a completely different team. It's a team that can go up against Fnatic.
And that's the thing. You have good days, you have bad days. And I feel like for Tricked, it's Soft in particular can be a real feast of famine jungler. There's moments where it looks like he's deciding factor in some of the successful wins, him pairing up with Eren, but there's also games where he loses the momentum. He doesn't find the early success, and he kind of starts to look a little bit lost. I think he does lean quite a bit on having that early impact. And unlike Dan, he's not happy just to chug away in the jungle. He wants to be doing something. I think that's where they can struggle. And on top of that, Wazo, again, if he gets a lead, great. But if he doesn't, we've seen him be a bit of a vulnerability, especially when he's put on more carry-oriented roles.
Guys, obviously there's so much we could talk about with this particular matchup, but I think we will dive back into this discussion after our short break. We've got a draft coming your way, so we'll see you in a few minutes.
If you wanna find love, then you gotta have faith. The world is on your side. The world is on your side. If you wanna find love, then you got to have faith. The world will be your guide. The world will be your guide. No, I don't care. No one can tear you down. We'll lift you up. It's about here and now. You're gonna find love. Yeah, you're gonna be alright. If you wanna find love, then you got to have faith. you're gonna find love. Yeah, you're gonna be alright. Yeah, you're gonna be alright. Yeah, you're gonna be alright. Love like Bonnie and Clyde. Love like right till we die. Down like thieves in the night. Love like Bonnie and Clyde. Love like right till we die. Down like thieves in the night. Love like Bonnie and Clyde. Love like right till we die. Down like thieves in the night. Love like Bonnie and Clyde. Love like right till we die. Down like thieves in the night. Sunsets, high rise, you know you're on the floor, diamonds, good life, walking the golden door, everybody knows.
Draft is ready to go, and it is Fnatic on red side, tricked on blue, immediately banning the Sona. And obviously, I think this is something that, Dan, you had previously talked about.
Yeah, I think Sona Lux is super powerful. I think we're going to see it picked up more and more. And I think particularly when you're looking at Maddie, who likes to lean away from AD carries to play more supportive picks, often for the team in the past, and Bravado as well, who likes those scalers like the Taric and such. I think this would be a bot lane that would really be powerful for Fnatic. So heads up ban there. And then we're following up with the Taric away from Bravado, and just a lot of the power picks as well, and that Ashe, Thresh, and Azir.
And just in general, the Azir ban obviously coming in once again. We've seen it multiple times against Aaron, and they're not afraid just to pick it up. With the Ashe and Ezreal out of the way, we have seen teams just prioritize, as we see here, the Volibear instead when he's left open in these drafts. Obviously one of the strongest junglers right now in terms of skirmishes and dueling in the early game, and his pressure really shows as soon as they get in game.
And I really like that because Tricked is all about the skirmishes. When we've seen them strong, they either go way over 40 minutes into the late game, or they play these skirmishes, playing the map, going all about, diving. And Volibear really likes to do that. He likes to dive, he likes to deactivate towers, and giving his opponents a really tough time underneath something that they thought was safe for them.
And I think this Kalista pick's interesting when you look at the first three bans from Fnatic. So Ezreal and Azir cause issues for Kalista with the range disadvantage, and Thresh offers that safety net to get away. So it's clear Fnatic want to be able to attack the bot lane and also carry the strength of that Kalista further onwards. I feel like we may well see something like a Nautilus round out, but for now they'll take the set. It offers that flex, and it can go with the Kalista if needed.
And it's going to be interesting now. Are we just going to see a blind pick Twisted Faith coming in? We have already seen by Riddle how dangerous a Volibear and Twisted Faith composition can do in draft, because it is so easy to set up these dives, especially when you have a triple threat team like Tricked Esports right here. There is endless possibilities with a pick like Twisted Faith.
Well, there he is.
There he is. Guildfog managed to hit the nail on the head there. Let's see what they go for in their final rotation.
Yeah, I think you might be forced to take an AD carry here if you want to match up into the Kalista, but we still see the likes of the card that's been available. You could even take something like a Nautilus if you really want to cement that point and click CC onto the Kalista. I think there are options ultimately for the side of Tricked, and it looks like they are leaning towards AD carry. So the Ezreal, the Azir, both have massive range advantages, which cause an issue. Caitlyn is in a similar boat. You are not going to be able to get close to a late game as a Kalista.
And the thing with Caitlyn is she's also such a lane bully. The fact that Kalista can force on you and jump right and left, and you can't necessarily hit her with something of the likes of Ezreal and stuff. Caitlyn can't hit you from super far away. You get close enough, you get netted in the face and crit on the head. So I feel like it's a really, really, really good pick for them. Now, I know people have been shading my girl Morgana, but I do feel that still a Morgana Caitlyn lane is one of the strongest. You can sort of force the Kalista away from certain positions by putting the paddle down. Okay, Fnatic, you're way ahead of the play.
they banned it, I think, quite clearly. It's one of those hard shoving lanes that's very difficult to deal with. The interesting pickup for me here is the Magi Felix taking the Syndra, which obviously with the Kalista lock-in we're assuming is, unless it's Pride Kalista top, which I don't think is going to be the case. Magi Felix taking
we've seen us in top lane. You never.
I will bow out if this is indeed tricked. Fnatic taking Kalista top, but we assume this is Magi Felix taking the Syndra mid. It's not something that we've seen a huge amount of from NLC teams in Syndra, at all. But what is the idea here behind Syndra? Is it just to be able to shove the Twisted Fate in, or either go for kill pressure? Is that what we're looking for with a pickup of the Syndra into this matchup?
Gives you strong skirmishes, allows you to find priority against the Twisted Fate and challenge him on that. And if the Twisted Fate starts roaming and you find him, you can just execute him instantly, take him out of the game. So puts a little bit of danger onto the Twisted Fate. We do see a lot of support bans come in the second rotation. Fnatic looking more towards supports that would tear up with the range advantage with Caitlyn, whereas Tricked are banning the engage options for the side of Fnatic Rising. There is still Karma available if Tricked want to get their hands on that, but you could just see the set put into the bot lane for Fnatic Rising, and then they'd be able to utilize that with the engage potential of Hex Flash, and it pairs really well with the Sejuani. So I think because they have that set locked in, Fnatic still have flex options, and it's really nice for them to take their jungler here and leave that top or support as a possible option on the last pick.
And I would also see Zillion being locked in here for Tricked. He's extremely strong versus the Kalista. You can slow her down. He's also really strong against the Syndra when she ultis. Karma is obviously a really great choice together with the Caitlyn because you've got endless push in the bot lane, to the point where I'm starting to think that maybe Tricked are feeling like pulling a good old BTXL with the Volibear and the Twisted Fate, grabbing level 6 and heading straight down that bot.
Yeah, and I'd love to see something that sync up well. I think the options to me that speak out are the likes of an Ornn or a Gangplank. But actually, they're going to opt for the Olaf and move that Volibear into the top lane. So it means essentially that they have a lot of skirmishing power on the back of that Olaf, which obviously the Volibear does answer. But specifically, the Olaf is going to be dealing with the CC coming out from Fnatic Rising. The Syndra, the Sejuani, the Set, all can be issues if he's trying to get on top of this Kalista. And this now provides him a free way to do so once he's level 6.
And it's exactly as you said. That could have been an argument if you wanted to completely counter the jungle in Sejuani with a Trundle instead. But just as you pinpointed, with the skirmish coming in for Fnatic Rising, extremely easy with Olaf pick. And now the flex, as we have spoken up here with the set, is actually being brought down to a supportive. Does not necessarily do fairly well against double range. So it is going to be interesting to see how Xmati and Bravado is going to fare out when they're playing Kalista set into Caitlyn and Karma.
And I honestly had like a glimmer of hope that this was going to be, what was it, Season 7? The Kalista cannon bot lane, where Kalista would just grab the cannon and throw him straight into the fight. I think, if I'm not wrong, that was Season 7. But they're going to opt to put it in the top lane. And unfortunately for Tricked, they don't have a single member that can kick or disrupt the ultimate from cannon. So once he's in, he's either going to force summoners or stick.
Yeah, the flank potential for Pride this game is pretty huge. But now that we've seen the drafts, Tricked have locked in their composition. The expectations are that Fnatic are going to stomp them regardless. Does that still ring true now that we've seen the compositions?
Well, I had a little chat with the coach of a Tricked here the other day, Pat, and he was talking to me how they had actually set up new systems in the Tricked. They have created a Tricked handbook of things you could and could not do, because obviously we have complimented Tricked in the past of being one of the teams that play towards their own win condition, but suddenly they look struggling and they started doing weird stuff they shouldn't necessarily do in the map. They shouldn't take these fights. We see them take 1v1s, for example, with a Shyvana AP jungle that you just never shouldn't. But with a composition like this, they're set up to do well if they can follow their own systems, but their consistency has not been up to par these days, so I'm gonna let them do the talking on the Rift instead.
Do you know what? I like it. I'll leave it at that, Goldborg. I'm gonna hand over to our casters, Froskurin and Hitbrain. Take it away.
Thank you very much, Iskandro. Hello and welcome. We're getting ready to go into game number 1 of our second day of the last week of the NLC. Frosk, this is Fnatic taking on Tricked. Fnatic have been consistently strong. Tricked have been a bit of a wild card so far. What are you making of these comps?
Well, I'm glad that we're seeing some of the, not newer champions, but older champions that have been buffed recently. Caitlyn's gone through a series of buffs where I think she's gone kind of like 3 back-to-back-to-back buffs, and finally seeing a bunch of 80 carries squeezed to have her take the rift, whereas Sejuani returning. Obviously on 10-14, Sejuani's permafrost was buffed up. It was thought to be good news for the likes of Jankos on G2, and maybe it's good news today for Dan on this Fnatic Rising squad. But otherwise, I think that the analyst desk was pretty clear on what these comps wanted to do, that there's options for Trick, and while I prefer Trick's composition because I think it's a bit more straightforward, we have yet to see Fnatic taken down, their dominance reign supreme, and so I expect them to outperform on this composition anyway, and they're giving plenty of tools to kill people.
Yeah, the tools are really the key thing for me here. Dan getting back on the stage. I've been following Dan for a long time. Sedge was a champion when the UKLC first started. He actually played pretty much the most of. Might have to hold that for the moment, though. Tricked are looking to move into Fnatic's jungle, but Fnatic are actually set up here. Bravado's even roamed over. And Tricked are actually just going to get sent packing.
Yeah, I think that they could smell that something was up. Obviously, it's pretty common for an Olaf to look for a delayed invade. It's one of the few winning matchups that Tricked actually have on this map outside of their push priority that a Caitlyn and a Karma can offer for the bot lane, of course. But that Olaf, obviously, if he can find Dan, pinch him down, can try to abuse the Sejuani in the early game. Good news for Fnatic Rising fans, however. They were secure on Dan, making sure that he started topside, which will give him plenty of access if he wants to gank bot. And we expect that this Karma and Caitlyn would be pushed forward. So my eyes are actually on what Kate and Karma are going to do with their wave to make sure that Dan doesn't get a free gank when he decides to path down bot side.
And interesting enough, X-Maddie was also up in the top side in case any kind of plays did go down in that jungle, and he took the first 3 minions from Magic Felix's mid wave and then moved down to the bot side when he had Bravado to join him. So we'll put Magic Felix down a little bit as far as the kind of available minions, but I like that play overall from them. Pretty heads up.
Yeah, I don't think it's super punishing just because a Twisted Fate isn't going to have a ton of kill pressure at level 6 as opposed to, you know, if you give an Annie or a Syndra an experience advantage into level 6, they just immediately turn and then burst you. Again, just want to make point that Twisted Fate was nerfed on the most recent patch. We're playing on 10-15, specifically his W. The cooldown was increased by 2, but because W is the first ability that you take into lane, but one of the last abilities that you max, you're maxing your Q, the nerf I don't think is that punishing, even though you're sitting with that lower cooldown for a majority of the game.
Yeah, I'll see how well he'll use that. As Dan's actually looking to see if he can set up in the bot side. Looks like it is just going to be a crab picked up for Dan, though.
Yeah, this is what we were expecting. The fact that they would try to perhaps even gank, but as you can see, he goes to the crab and gets the hell out of river with the priority that both Twisted Fate, Caitlyn, and Karma are pressuring on this poor Sejuani's river.
It's nice to see Trick trying to set up Soft, for successes. Soft has been pretty feast or famine. I think that's a fair point to say. He's had some really, really good games. He's had some poor games, to say the least. So kind of playing around him on an Olaf, a champion who does want to get going early, wants to snowball, wants these early skirmishes. Trying to enable Soft to actually be set up for success is going to be important for Tricked in this game.
Yeah, and I'm going to be frank, I lost track of where Soft's pathing was, but, you know, the fact that Olaf lost those crabs, especially when he did have priority, is just going to be a big miss. So credit to Dan there to even scrape away one of these scuttle crabs in this matchup on the Sejuani. You can see that Soft was also, you know, kind of biding his time a little bit on the entrance to Raptor Camp, so he's not moving as quickly through this jungle as we would expect. As here comes a potential big slow stack here from Volibear, so looking for a possible dive as both TF and Volley are here. But Sejuani reads the sitch.
They do have Dan making his way up. Pride just trying to buy a little bit of time. Aaron with a gold card getting charged up. Gets the static off, and that's just an easy first blood picked up for Aaron.
Yeah, just a really beautiful execution there. Magi Felix on the bottom, though. We'll see if it trades back. He does have flash.
He does. He's got a minion to juck as well. Gold card charged up, and Wazor is just going to flash away. Magi Felix lands a Scout of the Week to send Aaron packing, but Fnatic a little bit too slow to that play, and it's nice to see how aggressive and how fast-paced Tricked are playing this early game.
Yeah, really beautifully done by Trick right there. It's a pretty standard and staple move. You build up the wave, you get it stacking, you slow push it, or excuse me, slow crash it into the side. As long as you have priority in your mid lane as well as your jungle, it's pretty easy to then collectively dive up there. So obviously is going to help, especially because Aaron was the one who picked up the kill there. So immediate into the boots, which are the Merc Treads, to deny a lot of the burst potential that MagiFelix would have, as well as helping him move a little bit quicker as soon as he gets access to that Destiny. But otherwise, the game is not snowballed too far out of control yet.
No, it's just one kill. There is a fairly significant CS lead in the mid at the moment, though, for Aaron. But Fnatic, they are just going to move their members down towards this Infernal Drake. Want to get an early Soul Wing condition potentially for them. Also,
I think it's also really punishing when you're against an Olaf to try to take away these early Drakes. That's something that Olaf really thrives in. So I think Fnatic Rising just did a good job recognizing that they had numbers advantage because they saw that Caitlyn and Karma had taken their backs in visible minion. They knew that Soft was top side, probably pathing bot side. So again, Dan scraped away the Scuttle Crab. He now scraped away a Drake. I just think he's doing a really good job slowly beating Olaf around this map so far in terms of timing.
And he's always got Bravado in his back pocket. Bravado's basically been out of lane for a very, very long time. Just keeping in line with Dan. Dan will get spotted out as he takes an axe to the face. Does have that Arctic Assault to get over the wall if he needs to. As the flash gets used, the Destiny's going to come down. And MagiFelix forced to flash away. They look to try and catch out Aaron. Aaron has to run for his life, though. Bravado and Xmadi closing in onto Soft. Pride made his way forward. Slicing Maelstrom available to him. But the slows are too much, and Xmadi will find a kill onto Soft as Aaron on the run as Fnatic will hunt him down. MagiFelix gifted the kill, a shutdown for him as well. Fnatic capitalized on Trick's aggression.
Oh, and it almost looked good for a second there. You can see what Trick were thinking. They're like, we have the Destiny. This is what we want. This Olaf to really abuse the Sejuani. They got into his face and then just push a little bit too hard. And the curse is that it ends up in Kalista and Syndra's pockets of all of the champions. So while these 2 kills don't automatically swing Fnatic Rising kind of back into control of this game, it's certainly going to help out pretty favorably, especially because Xmadi's now sitting on his boots for Kalista. Naturally very important and should have a pretty powerful back, at least looking for the Cutlass here. And that life steal is going to be so important in a lane where he's dealing with so much poke.
Just the lane dominance that Achu and PlayStation have right now is incredible. They managed to take 3 plates in the bot side. And this is what Caitlyn needs to do, because Caitlyn does typically hit a bit of a power trough. So getting as much plates early and kind of negating that and getting ahead of the curve of Xmadi is going to be key here. Now, Aaron does find out Dan. Dan jumps in, and actually, Aaron might be in for a little bit of hurt here. Has to flash away. Gets connected on by the ultimate, and the unleashed power is going to be enough. MagiFelix finds the kill.
And this is the big power window, obviously, for a Syndra once she has access to her ultimate, especially in tandem with the Sejuani ult. Sej does so much surprise burst damage. You always think about her as a tank and kind of the CC machine, but she really does hurt. And once you have level 6 on those champions, Twisted Fate and Olaf's level 6 is non-comparable. So it was always going to be immediately into having access to this power and controlling the river.
Well, it looks like Ronald's going to make his way down towards the bot side. This tower is going very, very low, but no one's actually really about here. Xmadi, level 6. Well, Bravado is level 4, crucially. That's how much he's been roaming around with his jungler. He's so far behind the curve in experience. Gets called in by the Fate's calls. They do find themselves a knock-up. Teleport's getting used, and now Fnatic, they need to get out of dodge. Weasel gets the Thundering Smite down. They do get Haymaker off, but Weasel finds an easy pick-up onto Bravado, and Xmadi's just going to have to run away.
This is frankly just really sloppy play from Fnatic Rising right there. Not taking account of the teleport. You can see that Pride doesn't have access to his TP. So while Volibear does spend time down bottom, Pride was getting plates up into the top side. But, you know, that's a Vampiric Scepter and boots to a BF sword, Caitlyn Karma. You know, there was never going to be kill pressure there, even if there wasn't intervention from a teleport. So I don't know why Fnatic Rising are trying to force their hands so hard there.
Maybe doing a bit of limit testing for Fnatic. They've had a very clean season so far. We're getting close to playoffs. They know they're locked in first. Maybe just want to see what they're capable of. MagiFelix does land a good scan of the week there. Gets a gold card.
I think that's a really interesting point. They, like you said, don't have really anything to lose. They are playing a much faster composition than we traditionally see from Fnatic Rising. You know, their dominance in the NLC has really been because they have such a strong and clear, coherent identity in how they want to draft. So, you know, maybe you are seeing them take more risks or really trying to push the envelope to see what they can get done before playoffs.
That's to be found out here by Weasel. Will get snared up onto Bravado as well. He has to flash away as Ace in the hole comes in, and Bravado is just going to be easily picked off. Throws out the Haymaker, but Aaron's able to secure the kill. It's a little over-eager by Fnatic, but now Aaron's the one stepping up. Has that gold card as the Unleashed Power connects in. Magic Felix has to use the cleanse, and Fnatic are jumping in. There's the Slicing Maelstrom onto 2. Weasel locked down for the moment, but the health bars on Fnatic are oh so low. Achu takes down Pride, and Tricked will just force Fnatic out of their jungle.
But ultimately, what did they get off of it? I don't think that Tricked... Oh, they're going to try. I was going to say, I don't think that Tricked can immediately just turn and try to take any sort of objective. In fact, Caitlyn kind of has the drive-by, taps the Rift Tower and says, maybe not. So for now, I actually think Fnatic Rising will kind of win out on the map state, despite kind of trading even in that fight, because they'll get first access to this Drake. And again, because it feels to me that Fnatic Rising don't have the same scaling options traditionally that Tricked's composition does, stacking or rolling these Drakes is ever more important.
Trade-off will be the Rift Herald though, and that may just get thrown down in the top lane. Already bot lane turret fell with plates, and that was all onto Achu. So Achu's got a Storm Razor finished up on this Caitlyn right now.
Just gonna be chunking with those shots right there. Nice to see Caitlyn back in the meta. I feel like she's like the most hated champion. I don't know about you, but anytime Caitlyn's in a meta, I'm like, this is a terrible meta.
For me, it's Vladimir. I can't stand fair. Vladimir. I hate him.
Okay, so what we're going to see now, because we just talked about the Herald here, is that they want to continue to snowball this Caitlyn. So you can see that Soph is kiting or shadowing underneath this Caitlyn. Ideally, you'd like to use the Herald to continue to move her around the map in particular. Plates still there, so get those back into the pocket and try to avoid this Caitlyn U power trap that we always like to talk about, because she does rely on steroids. As here's the counterplay from Fnatic. You know that the Herald was going topside, so maybe you poke your head up here, see if you can get a flank, catch someone out, but it looks like both teams are just eyeing each other. They pass the plates over to Caitlyn, and Fnatic Rising are trying to find somewhere to attack on this map.
Yeah, Fnatic don't even get the stun off there onto Aaron. Unleashed Power comes in. They are trying hard onto Aaron. Magic Felix will be able to pick that kill up. A lot used by Fnatic there. And I want to note that Achu has picked up 10 tower plates in these first 12 minutes. That is a lot of gold onto the Caitlyn.
He is a big boy right now. Again, if you can keep Caitlyn ahead of the clock, you don't really notice when she does kind of fall into waiting for either attack speed or flat AD before she starts really taking off. And I do like the fact that you pointed out how much was spent in trying to kill this Twisted Fate, but you know, where Fnatic Rising, I feel like they got access to the Drake the last time around there was a skirmish. There wasn't access to anything. They, you know, the flash on Twisted Fate is just about to be back up, so he will be safe. So yeah, you get some kill gold into the pocket of Magic Felix, and he has kind of been the consistent win condition for this team. Feels like in the mid game, he kind of disappears and then suddenly comes back with 3 million CS and just hard carries games. And that seems to be the name of the game, is they're literally hunting this poor man. Magic Felix and Dan are trying to ruin his life.
Oh, poor Aaron. They still have that GLP available as well to Magic Felix. Bravado's making his way up. Destiny is there. There is a gold card for Aaron. He's going to land it, but you have nowhere to go. Aaron's going to get taken down as Fnatic just gift another kill over to Magic Felix. But like you said, push mid. Trick's just going to move everyone into this lane and just give more gold to Achu. That's his 11th plate. He's about to get his 12th.
Oh, this is important, though. Keep your eyes on Kennen. Pride coming here for a really deep flank, and here's Bravado as well. They need to go now if they want to make this work.
Yeah, but Weasel has spotted Pride out, and now Pride's the one being chased down. Ruxus stops on the carpet to get a bit of movement speed off.
Yeah, huge credit to Weasel right there. I'm going to try to force it. Oh, no.
That'd be risky. That'd be so risky.
Dan doesn't have ultimate. If he did, they were definitely going to pull the trigger right there. Again, huge credit to Weazor to have the thought process there to scatter onto the side and kind of shepherd this Kennen, this Pride off of the flank of his team. That would have been kind of a big window for Fnatic Rising to attack multiple points onto the map. But so far, the game plan is pretty clear. Magic Felix is ahead. 4-0-2 on this Syndra. This is a big boy. He can walk out into any side lane and he's going to have kill pressure on virtually everyone because Weazor hasn't been itemizing into the MR. Yeah, he's got the Merc Treads, but otherwise now he's looking at a Cloth Armor and a Ruby Crystal as well as Sunfire, which that's actually really punishing because he's against 2 AP carries. What was he thinking? He's against Kennen and Syndra.
Yeah, that is suboptimal is how I'm going to word that.
I mean, I guess that means that he has to be grouped up with his team really for the team fight to get advantage out of that. Like, the Ruby Crystal's not necessarily going to hurt. And I totally understand going for the Bomby Cinder because you want some sort of wave clearing duty. But to me, Wazer's build is really set up for him to run to a side lane, hard push a lane, and then, like, sprint back to his team and try to play on numbers advantage with, like, his speed in between lanes.
Yeah, and crucially, Maddie, he's just finished up that Blade of the Ruined King, massively far behind the curve on a Chu. So his damage is sure. He's got the first item he needs to really spike with this Kalista, but it's not like he's going to be the hardcore carry. But might have to hold that as Dan looks to jump in onto a Chu. Scout of the Week will land onto PlayStation as he gets chunked out. Fnatic do just get a bit of a hard force here, but this will afford them the ability to move into this jungle and get control of the river around the third dragon spawn.
Yeah, just playing really well, like you're saying, around those timers for the objectives. Kind of concerning that they weren't able to immediately pop Flay. I think it was the Karma Shield in particular that helped avoid a lot of that damage. And if your Syndra ever falls behind the clock and isn't able to burst someone when there's a Karma there, that can be really scary, especially for how much investment has gone into him. But I'd have to see a replay to see exactly where the damage didn't come through. But now that's also a lot of key ultimates down as we're setting up for this Drake. So I just feel like Fnatic pulled the trigger a little bit too early here. And actually, Trick should feel really confident to kind of walk into this river safely and try to contest.
Teleport available onto Pride. That last pick actually did cost the Chu both of his summoner spells, so he's pretty vulnerable right now. Dragon's going to go to half HP. Teleport's getting used, and Pride looks to join into the fight. Maddie just lobs Bravado in. Here comes the slap on the suplex. Massive slicing maelstrom comes out by Pride as he locks Trick down. Not going to be able to find too much more for the moment as Bravado gets the Haymaker off with the shield, and Wazor able to disengage. Fnatic with low health bars are going to get forced away momentarily, but this should just be the Cloud Dragon picked up for Fnatic.
The one key ultimate, and you called it, Hiprain, that they had left and available was Pride looking for a deep flank. And Wazor this time around wasn't scouting out to the side lane, wasn't able to shepherd this cannon away from his team. Pride comes up really clutch there for Fnatic because now they're setting themselves up beautifully for Soul. And again, this is a composition that has a timeline on it. It is important for them to stack this Drakes, and Pride may have just given them that opportunity. This is a Smeb moment. He saw it in his eyes. He's like, yes, yes, yes.
It's one of those things on Kennen, when you land that kind of ultimate, it feels so good. It does show that, you know, Maddie's not quite there on his power spike right now because there wasn't really that much of a mop-up available to Fnatic after that fight.
I think that's also just credit to Trick to recognize that, hey, we need to kind of sack this one right now, disengage when we didn't have the low health bars, not able to push all the way through. Doesn't help that multiple team members just took the full true damage W from Bravado there on the back end of the fight. So yeah, losing the Drake, but it helps that they didn't also lose their lives. You're still dealing with a relatively weaker Kennen, only has the Proto Belt, does have the stopwatch at this point though, so we do need to watch kind of in the next team fight how that can change things, now they can feel really safe to engage.
Yeah, I don't think Fnatic even want to attempt contesting this. Dan was actually doing his Krugs. As that will be the second Rift Herald picked up for Trick. They've been able to take out three of Fnatic's towers. Well, Fnatic haven't actually been able to take a single turret. And I think if I was Trick right now, there'd be a slight sigh of relief in knowing that the Soul is a Cloud Soul. It's not the most impactful for them. So they can hold out, but a Chu has to 90 cal back to safety. He gets pulled in. Maddie finds the kill. That is just flawlessly executed by Fnatic.
Are we going to say that Dan predicted the net or that a Chu went into it? Either way, that one's going to hurt. See if Aaron can get something on the side.
Does get the stun off. Pride stuns him back with a shuriken. Actually, Aaron's going to go somewhat low here. Fnatic are looking to collapse in. Destiny's going to get used, and can they actually stun him up in time? He's just going to peace out. Fnatic force the Destiny out from Aaron, so that actually kind of alleviates some of this global pressure that they're playing into.
Yeah, and frankly, even though MagiFelix is so infinitely powerful, they're still continuing, or Fnatic are still continuing to funnel resources into Pride on that side lane. And it's really just been about Dan and MagiFelix teaming up as a duo and just brute force breaking Trick's defense. You know, anytime a Chu is stepping up, he's caught out by a Sejuani ultimate, or Karma is getting blasted by this Syndra. And Fnatic are just using these Syndra and Sejuani ultimates really well to kind of stall out what Trick are trying to set up on the map here with their Twisted Fate.
Well, this thing MagiFelix has now picked up he had picked up a little while ago, but he's got 12 stacks onto that Medjay's. So really, really looking to try and get ahead with the 10 stacks. That's when you get the movement speed, I believe. It's a little bit harder to pin down. Cleanse coming up as well soon for Magic Felix, so might be quite hard to actually find the shutdown onto him.
I mean, one would suspect, but right now it kind of feels like we're playing different games as you knew that they were there. Come on, man.
Aaron is on the receiving end of yet another gank. Teleport's going to come in, and Aaron's actually looking to kite this one out as Wazor gets the stun off into Magic Felix, who has to flash away. The wild cards come out, and actually it looks like Trick are the ones looking to punish Fnatic. They've turned this play on its head as Aaron's got a gold card charged up and ready to go. Protobell's going to connect, and Magic Felix is going to go down. The shutdown's picked onto PlayStation as Pride throws out the slicing Maelstrom and is taken down by the Sky Splitter. Soft is making his way over towards Dan and Bravado. It looks like they're going to be able to get away to safety. Fnatic getting heavily punished by Trick.
Yeah, leave no man behind, I guess, was the motto from Trick, and it's even worse with the Herald. Now, why Fnatic didn't want to pull the trigger there is, as the observers just showed us, it was xMatty across the map on this Callista, taking down a single tower to her name, but that's now answered by Twisted Fate pushing up that lane, and a really nice Herald charge for Trick. They get so much gold out of this.
That turret is gonna survive. No, it's gonna go down. Don't worry, I regret that. The turret goes down, and now it's open.
Yeah, but Trick needs to be actually really fast here on getting on the recall because, again, we still are playing around the Drake Soul spawning in 45 seconds. So quickly, make your backs, pick up your control wards, last second buy, boys, and then you just start sprinting towards this Drake. Other things that we do need to check in on that are really important is the Magi's. I believe Magic Felix lost a ton of stacks in that last engagement.
He's got 2 stacks currently. Did pick up a Aether Wisp and a needlessly large rod. xMatty, as his itemization, he's hit that Hurricane now, so got a lot of wave clear to work with. And in those team fights, a lot of AoE available to xMatty at this point. But like you're saying, 15 seconds until this Cloud Drake's up, and Fnatic are looking to set up. Pride has TP.
Yeah, other things that are noticeable, again, Pride has access to Stopwatch, so we'll see how he uses that. Achu, with all of his gold, has also picked up a QSS, so no longer really has to be so fearful of Dan as that net, maybe not it.
xMatty just flashes the wall. He's out, doesn't want anything to do with that. It's the Destiny down.
And now this is kind of where funneling all those plates into Caitlyn is starting to pay off. So Fnatic Rising, it looks like they're going to try to force their luck. If they go down here, the Baron is the very next play. Wazor already scattered out Pride.
That's so big, forcing the cannon away, forcing the big kind of team fight tool away from this Dragon. But Fnatic, they're not willing to give it up. Look at the line of traps placed down by Trick, though. It's so hard for them to step forward and try and get this Dragon, but Dan is waiting about. Soft's going to jump in. xMatty kiting away. Wazor takes a scan of the week to the face, and Dan still healthy. Good knockout comes in for the face. Cool, and Pride just minces through the health bars. Soft jumps in forward. He steals away the Dragon, but Fnatic find a triple kill onto Pride, and Aaron is the only one standing.
But literally at what cost? Aaron getting chased back to his tower. Fnatic now have a very clear pathway to Baron. They have a Callista, they have a jungler, they have a Smite, and they have once again ripped the game back from the jaws of defeat. Trick were playing so well, but Fnatic, you give them an inch and they just rip everything back. That's twice now that they've sucker punched Trick.
This is the coin flip from Trix, but was highlighted on the desk. Sometimes they look really, really good. Sometimes they just seem to throw it out the window. They had a great amount of control over Fnatic, but just overstaying in that fight as we look at it once more.
It's just the inability to update the call. I feel like the initial call from Tricked was correct, which was turn and fight, we're strong right there. But then the outplay from Fnatic Rising, the fact that that was a beautiful, I believe, Callista ultimate to put Bravado right into people's faces and just instantly blow up a Chu stepped way too far forward on that Caitlyn. Like, the QSS did not matter there.
Not at all. The Chu now 1-3 on the Caitlyn. Fnatic with the Baron can look to start to crack open these turrets. They're 1,000 gold up at the moment, but there's a lot of locked gold in these towers that they should just be able to unravel now with the help of the Baron minions.
Now, it is still relatively important for Fnatic Rising, obviously, with the Baron, that they need to make grounds right now because the composition still can stall out pretty significantly. So it's not like they're out of the woodwork just yet and have completely won the game off the back of that. They've gotten themselves another chance to play the game because slowly but surely things were really spiraling out of control for them.
Yeah, there were some worrying moments for Fnatic. They do have an open inhibitor in the bot lane, so something that if Trick do find a punish, they have an easy way to get into that base and start to crack open some structures there to give themselves a bit of a priority in the other lanes to work with. I do still worry though that the Chu has got a lot of gold on him. He's got the Storm Razor, he's got the Rapid Fire Cannon. Obviously, did itemize into the QSS, which is, you know, the tax that you will lose to deal with the Kennen and obviously the Scatter of the Week. But even so, a Chu's going to be hurting. A Chu is hurting. And xMatty on this Kalista famously has to snowball or does kind of fall off. And range was another thing that was also hit on with the desk. Fnatic, well, I mean, xMatty in particular is fairly low range, and he has to navigate these fights with the worry that there's a volley bear, there's an Olaf, there's people who can get on top of him and lock him down long enough for a Chu to be able to pick him up with the range.
And I think one of the issues then, because I do agree with that assessment that there are ways that you can really zone xMatty out of a fight, not have this Kalista really have any sort of impact. She's probably got another item, I believe third item is going to be Death Stance for her, before she kind of just doesn't get any stronger at that point into the game, and will start to teeter off comparatively to Caitlyn ramping up. But frankly, Tricked aren't necessarily playing their composition as well as they should. They don't seem to really know consistently what their responsibility is for every single fight. The fact that, you know, Wazor ran in, just got blasted by the Syndra, still doesn't really have any MR to his name. That's a completed Sunfire, so he just melts through. Means that he's really not threatening this Kalista at all because Felix takes him out of the fight instantly, and then xMatty doesn't actually need to be afraid.
Oh, Dan just jumps in onto Aaron. Aaron has a gold card, but that's not going to do anything. It's the face breaker will pull him back, and Dan secures the kill. Aaron has just been getting bullied this game.
And time and time again, though, it shows that Fnatic Rising aren't just the compositions that they play, but it's the fact that they play as a team as I say that. Oh, no!
What happened to his health bar? Stop finds the kill.
Gastric cursed. I'm sorry, Felix. I'll take that one.
I mean, we were highlighting that a Chu is pretty strong. Felix limit testing to see how much damage a Chu is going to do and just walked onto a trap. That is a lot of damage coming out.
Say goodbye to those stacks. They are all gone now. I will say that Fnatic Rising did trade Magi's life for that tower, but here comes the chase potentially. I was going to say, I see a lot of on the way pings. I don't know where you think you're going, Tricked. You're not going to run that fast.
There's the teleport. TP bot lane.
He was looking for the flank.
It's got the Lich Bane, so should be able to take down these structures fairly quickly if left alone. But bot lane, the only structure left is an inhibitor, so it's quite a ways away. Fnatic have all fresh gone off resets, and now looking to see if they can make their way towards this bot lane. So Aaron might have to be a little careful. Doesn't have Destiny yet.
Okay. Aaron just wasted his teleport. I'm going to be really frank. So he was sitting on base because he was actually looking to see if he can get a flank, which is why there were the on-the-way pings coming from Tricked, and then just, like, pivoted out of that play, and I think just mindlessly TP'd to this lane. And, like, it won't lose them the game or anything, but if you are looking for, like, really minuscule things to nitpick, it's the fact that he blew the teleport when the rest of his map was resetting, meaning that he now has to walk all the way back to his base when he could have just walked to this position. So it's little things like that, Tricked. They might want to clean up, as here's a skirmish over red.
They have got that Destiny available for Aaron. He flashes in, gold card onto the key target. xMatty chunked out. Very low health bar. Soft just runs him down. Finds the kill as a Chu. Free firing away on the backline. Pride looking to run towards him with that slicing Maelstrom. And Soft now is the one who's going to get focused out. Tricked, forcing Fnatic out as the Ace in the Hole connects onto Bravado. The Haymaker shield means that Ace in the Hole is not going to do any damage. And now Pride going to have to get Static to get out of there. Tricked get an easy punish. It is a 1-for-1.
I'm going to say that the call was not to blow Pride's ultimate because of the upcoming Cloud Soul again in 50 seconds. Because Pride had a really good position. Yeah, he probably wasn't going to hit a Chu, but he could have at least zoned a Chu from the fight, and Fnatic could have tried to continue to press that fight, but instead just kind of walked out of that one. So I'm going to assume that the call was to hold on to the key ultimates.
And that's actually really important, because if we look at the ult economy, Fnatic are up. Tricked blew everything there. Sure, Karma has ultimate, but that's on a silly short cooldown. So that doesn't count.
Running it down right now.
Doesn't have QSS, and she's dead. Gonna try and get a bit of damage off of the Felix, but Dan's able to find the kill. We'll see if Wazor gets stunned up here. Has to flash away, and with a Chu down, this is Cloud Soul for Fnatic. There's no way Tricked are gonna contest that.
How many chances can Tricked give Fnatic to continue to be alive in this game? That was He's like solving world hunger over there. That was... oh.
Soft was thinking about flashing into the pit to try and deny Cloud Soul, but honestly, I don't think it was worth it. Cloud Soul is strong, but not the most impactful.
That was just mindless. That was autopilot. Someone just wasn't thinking. Oh, yikes. Okay, next steps on this game. Sorry, I was just like, that just feels really bad as an AD carry. Checking in on itemization, we talked about how kind of Kalista really won't get a lot stronger at this point in the game. Magic Felix has lost a lot of these stacks. Kennen, actually a big boy right now. 6-3-2 has quietly, I know, right? Because quietly picked up all of this kill, all of this gold, and is now actually pretty significant. So our eyes really have to be drawn onto Pride, because when he does get into the backline now, it's going to hurt significantly. Whereas Achu, again, pivoted into the QSS, has now gone for the armor penetration, so is really slowing it down a lot of his damage. Unless you're a squishy target and you walk onto a trap, I still don't think that Achu is that powerful comparatively to how powerful he
Ghost gets popped, gold cards on. PlayStation looking for the tether, is able to find it, but Pride, that is the Yordle with a hat. Gonna do a lot of damage as Trickster just hard committing, but X-Maddie untouched in the fight as PlayStation just gonna get run over. Pride gets a quick drive-by there. Magic Felix low HP, Achu cut off from the team as Pride finds a double kill. Wazel's going to get popped by X-Maddie. Too many spears in him. And not enough members of Trickster around as Fnatic find another team fight victory. And now that it's going to push up into the mid.
And Fnatic are just ripping through Trick right there. Just superior players really showing the skill difference between their individual members to brute force a lot of these victories. Trick look like chickens with their heads cut off, frankly, with how Fnatic are running circles around them.
And this might be the final loop as going to pull out the yo-yo. Looking to ping it in onto Soft. They do find a knock-up into the scatter. Turret number one's going to go down. PlayStation is up. A 2 up in 6 seconds. And Fnatic are just going to hard force. Aaron has to go golden to dodge away on the face breaker. But Pride goes godlike. A 2's up. The Nexus is going to spawn. And in goes Pride. A 3-man ultimate to lock everybody down as he picks himself up a triple kill. It's the ace for Fnatic. It's the base to follow. 30 minutes on the clock, and Fnatic rising. Take out Trick.
And Trick do show that Fnatic can bleed, but Fnatic Rising will not fall. Their reign of dominance continues. Their terror over the course of the NLC, showcasing that it's not just about the scaling compositions. They can play fast League of Legends, and they can just frankly out-teamfight you. Huge individual... Huge individual showcasing today. That was player difference.
It really was. I mean, Fnatic bled, but it was a paper cut. It really wasn't enough for them to really worry about. And Fnatic are looking like a scary team going into playoffs, and any team that has to go against them is going to be in for a very, very tough series. Now, guys, we're going to cut to a quick break, and when we're back, we'll have our analyst desk break that game down. So we will see you in a second.
which we claimed. Wash it from our hands. Don't flinch or move a mile. It's safer for the houses are proud. We'll live near the forest. Say all your prayers. Ears to the ground. We can't look back.
There are a few things that are certain in life, but I can tell you 3 of them. Deaths, taxes, and Fnatic beating everybody in the NLC. There was a moment in that game, though, where I genuinely felt that Tricked were on the right path, and somehow it very quickly disappeared. Does anyone want to explain to me what happened? Because I'm sure that Fnatic, like, I knew that Fnatic were going to win, but just it felt like there was a moment where they might not have.
Yeah, I think honestly, Tricked came out with a pretty solid draft. They had a clear plan, and ultimately they looked to attack Dan in this game on the Sejuani. They started challenging him in the jungle. You saw heavy leans towards the top side to block the level 1 invade, and then you saw consistently the team was moving to defend him in the jungle. And this did give them a lead. You saw Caitlyn able to get tons of plates in the early game, but unfortunately what Trick did miss out on was they didn't play effectively around the dragons. They didn't set up correctly for them. And then when it came to those later team fights, which they had to have to try and deny the soul from Fnatic, they didn't team fight nearly as well as Fnatic. Honestly, they are just so stellar at it right now, and Pride had an overwhelmingly great game on this Kennen where he just found beautiful backline access. And ultimately, it was a good plan, decent start, but the execution didn't follow through.
And honestly, it also goes back to the other side, right? It goes back to Tricked and what we talked about them. They're 50-50. You know, you flip the coin, you don't know what's going to happen. They picked yet another composition where they could play sort of like when Aaron was on the Pantheon, where he could be all over the map at the same time. And I'm just going to help you a little bit there, Dan. 14 plates in 14 minutes is what the Caitlyn took. 2 full towers and almost a mid lane tower. This was insane. It was about 2,500 gold ahead of Kalista, and yet they couldn't translate this pressure on the side lanes. There were a couple of TPs that were used towards that bot side. Sure, you want to put your Caitlyn further ahead, but the Volibear was falling far behind. Everyone felt like he was limited a little bit too much in this game, just a little bit too much. And at some point, you see Magic Felix, he just whips out the Magi's right there. He knew, from that point on, he knew that Fnatic was winning the game.
And ultimately, when it came to that mid to late game where we have seen this is where Fnatic excels, the individuality performance of the members of Tricked also just crumbled. I can count like almost 8 times where Aaron just died in a side lane where he really didn't need to be. The same can be said about Archu in a clutch team fight around the mid lane where he's just caught out of position. This Trick lineup in this game alone seemed to me like, wow, you are doing really well against Fnatic, and then they went from, wow, you're doing really horrible against Fnatic. It was a roller coaster of emotions going through this, and not only as a team, but with the individual performance backing it up.
Like, there was a lot of plays, and I think realistically we could have picked out numerous occasions in that game where there were some swing moments because it was swinging back and forth for quite a while. But Dan, let's talk about the play of the match. Let's have a look at what you selected for this game.
So I love this one because this is one where Tricked actually had a decent setup around the dragon and still ended up losing the fight. You can see all those Caitlyn traps in the way. They have control of the objective, but Fnatic play this one beautifully. And what they do is they kite backwards into this choke. Weasel tries to follow and gets executed. No one else can walk here because of Pride. And then the re-engage from Bravado into that ultimate from Pride just destroys the backline. We consistently see Fnatic grouping up like a ball, protecting their carries, and then as soon as they see an opportunity to pounce, they jump forwards. And it's this coordination as a 5-man unit that even when the setup is there, even when the early game lead is there for Tricked, it is not enough to beat out Fnatic Rising.
And we've constantly been praised Tricked for their patience, right? We say they're very patient. They know exactly where their win conditions are. Where they're on an on day, they really can take on the big teams. Well, it felt like they were on an on day, but they got impatient. So everything was lined up. And then that trade that they so long held was no longer there. And I feel that their impatience in a lot of these fights really beat them in the bottom.
Yeah, I think you're quite right. It definitely felt like I like the way you put that. Bit them in the bottom. It was very British. It was quite clearly a game where Tricks could have won, but they definitely threw it out the window, and Fnatic very gladly caught it. Guys, I have another interview. It's a familiar face. I'm going to bring him in, Nico the Pico. Nico, congratulations.
Thanks.
Cool. Interview over. See you later.
See you later, dude.
So there we go. Good to hear from Nico.
What the?
He's actually left. Is that it?
It was.
That was it. That was actually the interview. Yeah, I've spoken to Nico so many times. The only thing I can do is congratulate Fnatic at this point.
9 to be specific.
No, it was good. I was good. I think at this point we know Fnatic is good. I don't need to talk to Nico about how good Fnatic are over and over again, guys. That was the first game of the day. Fnatic continuing their dominance, the pride on the line, like you said, going for the undefeated record. They are currently 9-0, but we have a very important game coming our way next. It is going to be Eminem versus Barrage. So we're going to cut to a quick break, and then we'll have our second game of the day.